Well, I've got a very interesting story, and the reason it's interesting is because it's supported by Dr. Joe's work. I've been going to the workshops, the progressive workshops. I'm now in Bonn at the advanced workshops. I've been doing the meditations, I've been doing the work, and I've been conceiving of creating a charity for young people to give them a reason to be a voice for people who aren't able to speak, because everybody's got a story. And I've got a passion about this. And I've got no background in how to create it, or I've got no background in the technical part of it or the artistic side of it. But when I had that dream and I knew that I wanted that in my future, it started to materialize. The technicians came, the artists came, everybody came. And I've had an amazing experience a few weeks ago that I wanted to share. And that experience was the fact that I had a friend who is working on our charity website, the Claygate Trust, come over from France. And I was taking him back to the airport. We had had an amazing entangled experience. We'd been talking about quantum and non-location, non-locality, and all of the things about how to manifest the future. We were driving back to the airport, going north on the Cambridge A10. We crossed over a bridge, and we saw a car at the side of the road that was being helped by a service car, van, and we pursued up north up the Cambridge A10, and all of us, and Ian, my friend, and I were talking about the future and manifesting the future. And all of a sudden we said, hang on, we're driving south to London. How did that happen? We're heading in the opposite direction. He says, I haven't a clue. I said, we haven't turned. We haven't done anything. So we go back to the place where we started from and came back over the bridge, saw the same car on the left-hand side of the road, and carried on up to the airport. And we watched to see if perhaps we were so engrossed in our conversation that we might have turned accidentally off the motor, and there was no turning. So somehow we manifested the fact that he was coming over in the future, and we were driving back as if I had picked him up in the future, heading back toward London. Joe talks about the fact that when you're in a different dimension, there's a different reality, multiverse, multi-universe, different realities. Something is happening in conjunction with what's happening here as we're sitting here in front of a camera. And that triggered something in my mind. And I thought, there's got to be something to this. I had gone to bed reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which is a book I was studying. And I had been pondering different ways of how to manifest my future self so that I could create abundance and I could create the things that I was dreaming about to help humanity. Not for me personally, but as an act of service to help humanity, because I know if that was my premise, I would be able to manifest it easier. So I was pondering when I went to sleep, and I woke up saying to myself, dimensional interface. And I sat up and I asked myself mentally, what's dimensional interface? And I looked up in the index to see if it might have been something I just read before I went to bed, and it wasn't. And I don't know what it means. In London, when Dr. Joe was giving his progressive workshop, he talked about, and he talked about it again today, how if you visualize a number or a letter, if you want a vacation, you put a V. If you want health, you put an H. Or money, you put an M. And you draw two squiggly lines around it. One is the electric electromagnetic. One is the electric field, and the other one is the magnetic field. So you've got an electromagnetic field around this. And then in the left-hand column, you write down 4 different things that you want. I wanted I wanted 80,000 pounds. I wanted to be able to pay back some of the people that had helped me set up this charity. There was something else in there. And the last one was I wanted to attend Dr. Joe's advanced workshop. In the right-hand column, you talk about how you would feel. There'd be so much love, there would be, all the positive things. And we did that. And on the way back home, I manifested $11,000. So I told him the next time he did a workshop, I said, listen, I've got to tell you this. This was amazing. So I told him what happened, and he said, he said, that's great. He said, come up on stage and I want you to tell your story. So I went up on stage, told my story. Then there was I went down, sat down in my seat, and a guy came up and was talking to Dr. Joe. And I didn't know who it was, but it was somebody I had met at an Anita Moorjani seminar. And she had been talking to a group of people, and I had an example of something. The people that she was talking about, because she was saying, we just need to love, darling. We just need to be more love. And everybody in the audience, the different women in the audience were saying, yes, but I've got a son who is so annoying. And he, and everybody was talking about the problem. So I said to Anita, I said, listen, I've got a visualization technique that I had learned, not specifically from Joe, but the techniques I had learned from Joe. And I said, look, I treat all of those voices in my head as lodgers, somebody who's in your home, sharing your home with you. And if I don't want a lodger in my home, if I've got a lodger for criticism, if I've got a lodger for anxiety, if I've got a lodger for depression or someone who gets really upset, and I don't want them, if I don't want that quality in my head, if I don't want that voice in my head, I'll treat them as a lodger. And I say, look, if you don't like the way that things are run here, leave. We're born with the voice of the silence, but that gets weeded out when we're young by our parents. They have a voice in our head. Our religion has a voice in our head. We've got, our school has a voice in our head. Our peers have a voice in their head. And all of a sudden you've got all these things chattering on your shoulders, and you lose the voice of the silence. So I've only got one lodger in my head, and that lodger in my head is called Tex, and he's a cowboy. And whenever I'm writing or downloading something, and a computer goes wrong, and I think, oh God, I can feel that well up, and that irritation, and I've called that Tex, the cowboy. And when it starts to well up, I just say, listen, go feed the horses. And it just calms me down right there on the spot.